Good evening, everyone. I'm Donna White, and I'd like to welcome you to Witness to History this Sunday, August 10th, 2025. I hope the sun is shining today. I have to share with you that we are recording our interview this evening with our guest, Michelle Frierson. And so I can't really tell you what the weather's doing outside, but I do know that today it's sunny. All right. So I'd like to welcome everyone to Witness to History. And I would like to also introduce John Dutton, of course, my partner here on Witness to History, everyone knows. And of course, our special guest this evening, Michelle Frierson. How are you, Michelle?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, just fine, just fine. Thank you so much for agreeing to be our guest this evening. We're going to have a wonderful conversation. As everyone knows, we have done Witness to History since July of 2020. Here we are we're going to start our sixth season, right, John? We will do this until our neighbors say no more. We'll never run out of more than neighbors. And I'd like to thank a few people. As always, I'd like to thank Megan Hayes for posting our Witness to History interviews on the library website, on the Shaker Public Library website, as well as Kevin Kay, of course, who was the brains behind Witness to History in 2020, as well as Theo. Thank you for keeping us informed. And all of you who have joined us this evening. As I have mentioned, we're recording ahead of time, so we will not be able to interact in real time if you have questions for Michelle. But certainly we will make sure that she knows exactly what you're thinking because she'll have access to this recording.
Mhm.
So without further ado, again, thank you and welcome, Michelle Frierson.
Hello.
Good time. We're going to have a good time. I
Mhm.
had an opportunity, the pleasure to meet you a couple of months ago, I think it was, and came to
Mhm.
your wonderful office on Lee Road. So you are not only a neighbor here in Morton, but you're also a business owner.
That's right.
Just a little bit of your story. So as I start off, I ask our guests when and why did you not where, when and why did you decide to settle in the Moreland neighborhood? For a couple of reasons. Of course, you live here in Moreland and you also have an office in Moreland. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, so I am a Cleveland native. I grew up in Garfield Heights, so the Cleveland side off of like 131st Miles, Harvard area. I graduated from John F. Kennedy High School, the old John F. Kennedy High School before it was torn down. And so I spent a lot of time in the Lee Road area, so the Chagrin Lee Business District when I was very young. So going to nail shops, the hair salon, hanging out in the plaza where Heinen's is.
Mhm.
And I had a friend who had family in the Moreland neighborhood. And so I just had an opportunity to observe the Black folks in the neighborhood. I think when we talked before, my impression, it was like the Cosby Black folks. So they were educated, they were exposed, and they were doing like all of these different things. So that was something that always stood out to me when I ventured, up this way. And so when I went to Cleveland State University, so I have a bachelor's of social work, and then I attended Case Western Reserve's MSAS program, and then I graduated in '09. And after that, me and my boyfriend at the time, we weren't married yet, we both moved in like the Clifton, Edgewater
Mhm.
area, and we stayed over there for about 11 years. And once we got a little older and we started family planning and we really like living on the west side. It was, beautiful restaurants. It was a lot to do. It was really nice hanging out around the water. But when I thought about raising a family, when I thought about, being a Black couple, being a Black woman, and raising children, where I felt like my dollars would be best invested. So for my family, but then also thinking about my exposure, my education, and the things that I was aspiring to do as a social worker, how I wanted to give back to the community, the type of exchange that I wanted to have for me, especially wanting my child to go to a public school. I didn't want to pay
Mhm.
for private schools. And so
Mhm.
after we looked in that area for a while, and it didn't feel right. So I'm like, you know what?
Mhm.
Let's consider Shaker. And the first neighborhood that came to my mind was the Moreland
Okay.
neighborhood. So
Good
that's
for
how we
us.
ended up here.
Good for us. Good for us. And this was kind of your old stomping grounds when
Hmm.
you were coming up. Show that picture again, John, of her when she was young. You haven't changed. You haven't changed.
No, I still look the same smile.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's wonderful.
Mhm.
That's wonderful. And you showed the picture of of your of Will. Now, where
Uh-huh.
did you meet? I think you told me you met in college.
We met in college, so we met in undergrad. We met at Cleveland State University.
Cleveland
He,
State. Okay.
uh-huh, yeah, and that was our graduation photo. We literally sat next to each other at the graduation ceremony. So we were, oh man, I think we were like 24 and 25 there.
Okay.
We were so young.
What year did you graduate?
I graduated from Cleveland State in '08, and then
Okay.
I graduated from Case in '09.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
My goodness.
Mhm.
I'm sure I saw you on campus.
Yeah, you probably did.
I've been at Cleveland State forever. So,
Mhm.
you know, and so, that's great. That's wonderful. So everybody just needs to know that people are watching our neighborhood. That's really, a very unique story that
Mhm.
you have about how it was that you observed people. And then it informed you in terms of where you decided to settle,
Mhm.
Dalton, and, to raise your son. That is wonderful. So we were like the Cosbys, and everybody remembers their show.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. So what is our next? You have been you mentioned that you went to Cleveland State and to Case Western, and we'll come back to that. We'll
Okay.
come back to that. But you also, and we'll talk about your business. And I want to encourage people to get to know you not only as a neighbor, but also, your business. But let's go to some of the travel that you've done.
Okay.
And this is and who your mother is. Let us know a little bit more about your family as well, because many people are going to be familiar with who your mother is.
Okay. Well, this is a picture. This picture was taken in 2007. I studied abroad in Kerala, India.
Mhm.
So one of the professors in Cleveland State University is in the Bachelor of Social Work program. His name
Dr.
is
Nair.
Dr. Nair.
Excellent.
And yeah, and I was there. I want to say I was there for about 4 weeks. It may have been a little bit longer. I always forget that. But my mom was able to travel. She was able to come visit the last 10 days.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
so this I would have never expected to even be studying abroad. I mean, I was selling candy and spaghetti dinners and just doing all kind of stuff. My mom, was helping me to raise money with her within her shop and with her clients. And so my mom, her name is Barbara Boyd.
Mhm.
She is a natural hair care stylist, and so she's been doing hair for quite some time. She's a loctician, and her business is actually on Larchmere. Her home and her business is on Larchmere, and being emotional.
Yeah.
So she has always instilled, community in me and my siblings since we were very young. So you travel, a certain distance, and then you always reach back and do something, whatever it is. And so just watching her as a single mother and being an entrepreneur and just being so creative and industrious in everything that she does, it was really it was a blessing, and it was really eye-opening for me to study abroad and learn about the different women. And so one of the goals of this trip was to learn about the different women who were establishing their businesses, and
Mhm.
to learn about their stories and what exposure and support of these types of businesses and women-owned businesses, what that meant to social workers and supporting in that way. And so it was just really a blessing for me to even be able to go and to raise enough money, and then for my mom to be able to raise enough money for her to travel and be there with me the last 10 days. So it was pretty cool.
That's wonderful. When I saw that you were in India, I did not connect the dots with,
Hmm.
Cleveland State. I didn't know when you graduated, but
Hmm.
Dr. Nair was students followed him, social work
Oh yeah.
otherwise, because he had those study abroad And I think he's in California now. I get emails from him like every day.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and the trip it was, and I would make the joke like this feels like real world India because it was crazy. And
Mhm.
I'm a pretty laid back person. I'm pretty reserved, but when they talked about folks being like loud Americans and different things like that, he really pushed us beyond our comfort zone. He pushed us to our limits during this trip, and then what it meant to stand in our profession and what we were working towards, and then even being introduced to different types of mindfulness
Mhm.
skills. We were just introduced to so many different spiritual modalities on the trip. And so I can't remember if we talked about this before, but a lot of the interventions that I do, the things that I'm passionate about in the practice, I carried away from India. So, silence, using silence as a tool, sound bath meditations, and then also chanting. And so those are things that I feel are really important. They're really transformational when we think about change and just tapping into ourselves. Mindfulness meditations and then Zen meditations, all of those things we were exposed to when we went to India. And I have been exposed to those things before as a child because my mom is into a lot of different things, but that helps me to develop a relationship with it for myself and then who, I would eventually develop into as a
Mhm.
social worker. So it was an amazing trip, but we were he really pushed us to our limit, and I would never be the same. I really appreciate being able to go.
We'll have to make sure he gets this recording. This is a really that'll be exciting for him.
Mhm,
Lasting inspiration for you.
mhm.
And your mother, I don't know if I told you when I came to visit you that I came to your mother. I gave myself a birthday gift one year and said, I'm going to go to Barbara Boyd. Everybody talked about Barbara Boyd and, the fact that she was the foremost Cleveland loctician, you know. And she told me how long it would take me to lock my hair. And I was like, oh, I think I'll pass. That's wonderful, though. Your mother is very well known. She's very well known. Just, many people have locks. So we saw the picture of you and Will, and your
Mhm.
graduates saw that you had your stole on that represented AKs. I do believe that's what that was.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, on that. And then, you have a son.
Yes.
Have a son. Tell us about your dear son.
So little Satchel, he'll be 4 in September. And he is just he is just an amazing little kid. Very much an old soul.
Mm.
He actually just finished soccer yesterday, and he was so excited he couldn't sleep. He kept waking up with his trophy and holding it up like this, and I was like, "Go to sleep."
He's a little
But
person.
yeah, but he
Oh.
yeah, it's really interesting because when I think about, when you're young and you want to become a parent, and I just remember being so naive and opinionated. So I'm in my early 40s, and so in my sibling group, and then also within my friend group, I'm one of the last ones to become a parent.
Mm.
And so I've been an aunt and I've been a godmom and a TT for, a long time. And I would be like, oh, you can just do that, different things like that. But now that I am a mother and then just doing the family planning and all that it takes to get, your little one to this physical realm, it just gives you a different perspective on just life, just the responsibility of life, how fleeting it is.
Yes.
And all of those things. And then I feel like it has deepened my work with my clients, like deepened my understanding and my connection, and even um, how we care for folks in the office. It definitely is a kid friendly environment, but now I think that there is a touch of just caring for parents in a different way when they walk through the door. And I just feel like Satchel woke me up to so many different things once he got here. So y'all
Yes.
probably see me walking around the neighborhood with him or chasing him on his scooter at the vacation district.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah,
These are beautiful pictures. I just have
thank
to
you.
say that these are beautiful. I love the picture in the middle. All of these are wonderful pictures. And we
Thank you.
see that he's a little daring there on this on the right in the right photo,
Yes,
plays
he
soccer.
is.
Yeah. So where
He,
is where is he taking playing soccer?
So he played soccer with I-9 Sports, and where they practiced and played was at Laurel. Laurel
Okay.
High School. Yeah, so that's where he was this
All
season.
right.
So
Okay.
we may let him return. We'll see.
All
We'll
right.
see.
Well, tell me, the name Satchel, of course, rings a bell. Tell
Mm-hmm.
me, tell me the reason that you named him Satchel, and tell us his middle name as well.
So Satchel, his name is Satchel Froshy. And so Satchel, of course, is from Satchel Paige. His dad played baseball when he was young, and Satchel Paige was his favorite baseball player. He even has a signed baseball. I want to say he inherited from his late uncle.
Nice.
And so we named him Satchel. And then Froshy is actually um, a family name from my side. So one of my grandfather's uncle, his name was Froshy. And so that's his middle name,
Mm, that's nice. And you told me also that even if you had had a girl, you would have named your
Satchel.
Satchel.
Hmm.
Okay, so let us make sure people know you can if you want Satchel, it doesn't make any difference if it's a boy or a girl.
Nope.
That's great. Now we have some photos here, you and your mother at
Mhm.
a gathering place. So tell us about
Yes.
this. About this.
So last year, we were able to host a wave of light ceremony at the Gathering Place, which is located on Mercantile. So this is the Gathering Place East.
Mhm.
And for folks who are not familiar, the Wave of Light ceremony is a ceremony that happens every year, October 15th, for pregnancy and infancy and pregnancy loss awareness month. And the belief is that if the families who have experienced the loss at any point during pregnancy or infancy, they light a candle from 7 to 8, and you can see a wave of light across the country in remembrance of these little ones who were gone too soon. And
Mhm.
so the gathering place has a beautiful garden that they donated for this ceremony. So um, I was able to ask a few other clinicians to come and provide support and education for our families, along with myself. And my sound bath instructor, her name is Sylvia Lewis. We had a moment of silence while she played the sound bath ceremony, and we all lit candles and just went through a meditation and
Mhm.
remembrance. So it was a beautiful ceremony. And of
Mhm.
course, my mom was there. She's usually at everything that I do, and I was pinning the pink and blue ribbon on her um, as folks were coming in. So this is what that picture is.
That's a great photo. And it's important work also. I mean, to know that loss of life at any point is is what people grieve,
Mhm.
and it's individual people's experiences, and we need to really be able to find ways to, help support them for sure.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
let's go back to, before we go on the next slide,
Mhm.
you're talking about the fact that you have your degree in social work, and we'll, see a few other pictures about, people who you studied with and all. But I asked you, we talked before, what motivated you to go into this field? And, tell us a little bit before we find about your.
So when I was, so I'm the youngest of five children, and when I was about 11 or 12, my eldest brother, so the oldest, he's 10 years older than me. He had to come home from school. He was attending Central State University because he had a psychotic break, and he was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. And so looking back, you know, at that time when we were younger, he definitely, we the symptom onsets were present, but we didn't understand what it was. So he was getting into a lot of trouble. It was just like a lot of violence and disruptions in the home. He was always, very intelligent, high grades and honors programs and all of that. But so when he came home, and he was just a different person. And the clinician at that time, I actually thought that he was a psychologist, but later, actually, I want
Mm,
to say it was maybe 4 years ago, I found out that he was a clinical social worker. So I was like, oh, it's okay. But his name is Maurice Curley. He's still around, but he actually is in New York now. But he just really did an amazing job on educating the family on, the disease and why family support, education, and presence was important for the prognosis of his illness. And
Mhm.
so at that time, we had other folks in the community who, had addiction issues, and we were used to kind of seeing that around. And, you would have folks here and there that were having mental health challenges, but it was different to be living with it every day, to, protect myself from his episodes, but also to want to support and protect him as he was navigating
Mhm.
life in the community as a different person, and in some ways as a vulnerable person,
Mhm.
especially when he was in the throes of an episode. And so when I initially went to school, I thought that I wanted to be an educator.
Mhm.
But then when I did my student teaching, I realized that that wasn't the case because I was paying attention to all of these
All the other.
other social determinants of health. And I
Yeah.
was like, why is this kid hungry? Why are they dirty? Why do they smell like, all of these different things? And I just was not interested in instruction in that way. And so
Mhm.
when I spoke to my advisor at Cleveland State, he told me that it was common for folks, within like the counseling degrees, to switch. We're all under that umbrella, but we're just
Mhm.
trying to figure out how we want to help folks. And so when I switched to social work, it was the
Just
perfect fit. It was just right.
that's good. That's good. And you have, I know that your office now is on Lee Road, but you were in another space before that. Tell us a
Mhm.
little about where you were before you came to Shaker.
So initially, so I've been a therapist for almost 16 years,
Hmm.
and I've been in private practice for a little bit over 8 years. And so initially, my first year in private practice, I actually was renting a space out of my mom's salon.
Mhm.
Um, and very quickly, I was like, "Yeah, I got to get my own space. This is not going to work. I need more room."
Mhm.
And so at that time, Will and I were, we were looking to purchase a home. And so I was on Larchmere. And then when we found our house on Ludgate, I just kind of scouted around the area. I looked
Hmm.
on Shaker Square. I looked close to the Van Aiken district. And then I came down to the Chagrin Lee district. So I was able to find a space at 3689 Lee Road. And I was there for about 6 years. So I moved there, I want to say in 2018.
Mhm.
And then I was there for a while. And then a little bit over a year ago, I was able to expand to 3601.
Mhm. So that's where you are now.
And that's where I am now.
Yes, yes. So this ribbon cutting is at your current location.
It is.
So
Mm-hmm.
there's a familiar person in there.
Yes.
Hey, tell us about who's there. I recognize your mother. I recognize you. Who else is in this picture?
So the woman in green is my sister, but in the middle we have Mayor Weiss. He was able to show up last minute. I appreciate him because that weekend he had a lot of ribbon cutting ceremonies, but he was able to squeeze me in. But yeah, so he came through and just had a good time with my friends and my family and my colleagues just to welcome the expansion and I guess it was the reopening, but of Frierson therapy. So we had a really good time, and I appreciate him for being able to stop by and say a few words.
That's
Hmm.
wonderful. And it's important for us to know the businesses that are on Lee Road. I think we tend to drive, it's a thoroughfare. So and unless we have a reason to utilize the services, we may not, know who's inside the buildings.
Hmm.
It's very important. And you're a therapist.
Hmm.
Very often people will talk to each other and say, do you know someone?
Hmm.
To know we have someone, so close by. It's
Hmm.
important for us to, share that information with others. Your work is essential. And I'm
Hmm.
sure that in your experience, you've seen that it's more needed as time goes on. This
Hmm. It
um,
is. It
families
is.
really need the support. And how too, just like you're saying, your own experience, how important family is.
Hmm.
Sure. Now we see, and we'll get a little bit glimpse of your office in this next slide.
Hmm.
This is where you are currently.
Yes, this is where I
Oh.
am currently. So this is the other side of it.
Mhm.
So I'm like sitting in the reception area, well, the reception, her desk, and then this space that you're able to see, that will be the seating area for just clients and other customers.
Okay. So when people come into the space,
Mhm.
what do they experience? I can tell them, but I want you to share. What do you want people to feel when they come into a healing space? Is the name M. Frierson the healing space? Am I right about that?
In Frierson Therapy, a healing space. So a healing
Okay.
space.
Yes, yes.
So, uh, well, it's more than just therapy, right? So when we think about just healing in general, it's a holistic approach.
Mhm.
And when folks come into the space, as soon as they walk through the door, I hope that they experience some level of calm that can aid in whatever healing experience that they're going to receive here. So whether it's a sound bath class, whether it's a meditation, whether it's an open house or any kind of community events, because we do a lot here. But I want them to, I'm hoping that that's what they experience from the colors that, we choose, because we know that color therapy is important, with the textures and the references to the cultural references that you see and that you may be able to feel and smell when you come into the space. So even before you sit down and have any kind of engagement or interaction with a clinician or with one of our instructors, that is what I hope that folks experience when they walk through the door.
Well, I can say that's exactly right. When I came, when I came in, I was, oh, okay. All right, because I don't necessarily enter a space with expectations, but then when you're there, you go, oh,
Mhm.
I see. I was like, okay, now let me meet Michelle, who is
Yeah.
responsible for all of this. So how many therapists are there? Who
So,
you
so
see?
now there are two therapists, and we are in the process of taking on two new interns. So it's that time of
Oh,
year.
nice.
It's that time of year for students to come through. Yeah, and then I have um, my instructor is Sylvia Lewis. She is our sound bath instructor and our chakra coach. So
Mm.
she is our instructor who, she's like our resident instructor. She's always here. And then we have folks that rotate and do pop ups throughout the
Oh,
season. So,
nice. Very good.
yeah.
All right. So our next, we'll go back to another familiar face. I
Hmm.
think on our next slide. And okay, well, since we're talking about your space, let's go to the right slide first. Who is this who you're with here?
So this is my landlord,
Okay.
Craig Stout. I love
Okay.
Craig. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
He
good.
So the first space that I was in, 3689, he was my landlord there. And then when I expanded, he showed me this space along with a few others on Lee Road. But he, Craig is an amazing landlord.
Oh,
He's so
wonderful.
compassionate. He's so understanding. He's supportive. Anything that I ask him to attend or support, he's always there, whether it's advice, whether it's his presence. And I know I shared with you that when I was looking for a space to start my practice, I did experience a lot of discrimination,
Mm,
questions about the population,
mm.
um, dismissing my business or, saying that my business wasn't legitimate. And then that definitely did create some fear and apprehension about moving forward. It didn't stop me, but it just created, a brief energy inside of me. But Craig, when I told him about my business and a little bit about my background, he just was like, "Great, we want to see more of this on Lee Road." He's very passionate about this area and seeing viable, long-standing businesses that are giving to the community in the Chagrin Lee district. And I think that's another reason why he is so supportive of the things that I'm doing. So I'm so grateful that I was able to meet him and that he met me with compassion and understanding. So that is Mr. Craig Stout.
Wonderful. I mean, there are not too many people who would put their landlord on a slide. That is
Mhm.
a compliment to him. I'm sure you'll have to make sure he sees this.
Yeah, I sent it to him. Yeah.
And then when you were in your NSAS program, tell us who you're with here.
Oh, so yes, David. So this picture is so every month. Social March is Social Work Month, and for the past several years, every March I have an event to celebrate the profession, to give myself and my colleagues an opportunity just to get together and let our hair down and remind ourselves of why we do the work that we do, and just to kind of have a good time. You know, the work that we do is it can be very taxing, and a lot of times we don't stop and smell the roses. And this year, I hosted a so with the celebration, I usually try to offer a CEU as well. So you
Mhm.
know, you can party a little bit, and then you can do something to earn some some credits towards your license. So this year I held a mixer and an ethics presentation about the power of journaling.
Mhm.
And oh my goodness, John was right. I feel like I just keep feeling these emotions wave up in me.
Mhm.
But I was just so taken aback that David attended. He had a good time. He was definitely
That's
well
great.
engaged in the activity. But the thing that just blew me out of the water is that he remembered um, some one of my papers and
Oh,
me talking about family systems and just how important that was to me. And it just was it took everything for me not to break down because I had to facilitate and host. But that definitely was a full circle
mhm.
moment. And
Mm,
everything that I do, I'm definitely always wanting to make my mentors and my professors proud.
yeah.
So just to hear him, say that he saw the things that I'm doing in the community and that he was proud of me and that he
Oh,
actually
yeah.
remembers me, I was like, oh,
Oh, isn't that you
I
never
can
know?
retire. No,
So, what's David's last name?
I'm Crampton.
Crampton, because of
Mhm.
course Megan Hayes and David Crampton are married. She's our history librarian in Shaker. So
Yeah.
he comes to our Moreland meetings and all. So he's
Yeah.
our neighbor. He's our neighbor on the other
He's
side.
also our neighbor too. So
He's
it's
our neighbor.
just, yeah,
Absolutely.
it's such
What
a
a
beautiful
compliment. So, as a part-time faculty member at Cleveland State, believe me, we remember students. There are students who really make impressions on us, and they're unforgettable. So
thing.
clearly, I can imagine. I can imagine. That's nice. That's very nice.
Mhm.
So we have a groundbreaking for your journal. And you talked a little bit about this, but here we have another familiar person. You have these wonderful pictures with these checker folks in here. So tell us about this.
So I'm here with Chief Wayne Hudson.
Yes.
This was in June of this year.
Mhm.
This is the groundbreaking and the unveiling of the Release and Let Go free journal pantry. So release and let go is I have a journal prompt. I have some right here. So I have a journal prompt line, and it's a 52 card deck. Um,
Mm,
and so each week you reflect on a different card. So this is the journal pack you can see.
okay.
And so the release and let go free journal pantry, this so when you see the little free libraries in the community where they give out free books, our
Mhm.
pantry gives out free journals. And
Oh,
so from my understanding, it's the first of its kind in Shaker. I'm
okay.
supposing that this is the first of its kind in Cleveland. And so this was the groundbreaking. We did it. I decided to host it in June is because June is the start of summer read season, and when I was a kid I read, you know I would just lock myself away in the house on the couch and I just would read and I would write out my thoughts, my reflections for the things that came up when I was reading. So summer reads, but then June was also or is also Men's Mental Health Awareness Month.
Mhm.
And so, with the Journal Pantry, the goal is to collaborate with different Shaker businesses or individuals to keep the Journal Pantry stocked. So,
Okay.
based on the research that we did for the population of Shaker, we wanted to provide at least 50 free journals monthly and bookmarks for the community. And the Shaker Heights Police Department was really passionate about supporting, and so they donated the first 100.
Oh,
journals. And then they also bought about, I want to say 70 journal prompt packs, because the chief likes to go around and pass out different things to the community. So he wanted to have some decks to be able to pass out. And then one of the things that I shared was that during the police officers training, they have a week that's called PTO. And during that week, the new officers shadow a seasoned officer, and they have to journal and reflect for that entire week. So they were really passionate um, about this initiative. And even maybe like the first, within the first week after we launched the journal pantry, we got donations, random donations from other businesses and even residents. So we're
yeah.
pretty good to go for the next several months on
Oh my
restocking the
goodness.
pantry.
All right.
Yeah.
More or everybody who's listening to this, keep
So
that
drive by and come grab some journals, come grab some
writing
bookmarks.
journals
If
and
you
also
if you see that
donate
it's
journals.
empty, give us a call, give me an email, and we'll make sure that they're in there. But we've been staying pretty stocked, so it's cool.
Wonderful.
Mhm.
Isn't that something? I want to go back to something that, that we talked about, and I mean, you've shown Mayor Weiss, you have, the police chief, in your photos and, talking so much about Moreland and how you were kind of surprised at how the community embraced you
Mhm.
business owner. And that wasn't necessarily something that you expected otherwise. But you are a person who people are going to embrace because you have so much to offer.
Right.
You have so much to offer. And, as we're, looking at and talking and learning more just about businesses, in the Lee Road area, I think we ought to call it the Lee Road District. The Lee Road
Mhm.
area, we will, hear more, from other business owners and operators. But it's not a surprise at all, because you're giving so much. Tell us a little bit more about what you do with the police department. You had shared that with me.
So with the Shaker Heights Police Department, I am the lead mental health clinician for their diversion unit. So the diversion program, that is a program where youth who are arrested for nonviolent charges, they the police department, and I want to say all local suburbs, if it's a nonviolent offense, they have the option um, of implementing the consequence in house or deciding whether or not the child is going to receive their consequences from Cuyahoga County at large.
Mhm.
And so a few years ago, it was a few months after Chief Wayne Hudson got here, I saw him at an event at a Shaker resident's home, and I had some questions about the mental health, the crisis response unit. And
Mhm.
so we had just a very fruitful conversation about, the youth and what we wanted to do. And so he asked if I would come on and do some education about, emotions, feelings, the anatomy of emotions, and what the legal implications are around that. And so we were able to just adjust some things within the program and add my component to it. And so with all of the other things that the youth have to complete within that diversion program, they come here to in Frierson Therapy, a healing space, and we go through a whole cycle education about what it means to experience feelings, how they develop, how boundaries impact the way you navigate life and express your feelings, and what are the legal implications if you express your feelings and your emotions in an unhealthy way. And in addition to that, we do some work with the families to support them, to provide community resources if they're open to it, to support them with the reasons why their youth are landing in trouble. And so I think each year, we get better with how we support the youth. So I'm really excited to see, what we're going to do within the next year and within the program. So I do that. And then supporting the police officers with them kind of understanding just the anatomy of emotions and expression emotions too. So it's pretty
Mhm.
cool.
Good for you.
Hmm.
Good for us. Good for Shaker.
Yeah, I'm really I'm proud that, our police department is
Mm.
what, from my experience, how they are, embracing the community and how they want
Mhm.
to, get better. And
Yeah.
just what it means to be a human and navigating space and time, especially within the community. So, being a mental health professional and just, I still see myself as like this little Black girl.
Mhm.
Um, and so being able to sit at the table and to have real conversations and have human experiences with the police department and it not being that way, especially, growing up, in the inner city and the experiences that I have had like within my family and just even, secondary experiences with law enforcement, it just feels really good to say that, in this time that Shaker Heights Police Department is trying to do something different. So,
That's wonderful. You just said something very important, how they are trying to do things better.
mhm,
All have to do that. I mean, we all have to think that way, in terms of, serving the community, serving families and all. There's
mhm,
not one size fits all for sure.
mhm,
Not
no,
at all, not even close. So we
mhm.
have another picture here of your son, and tell me about this.
So this is okay. So you saw the one picture where I was sitting and I was being recorded. So that was actually a recording
Yes.
for Cleveland State. We are Cleveland State. It was a really good interview. And then the other photo when I was sitting with David, and so you were able to see kind of where I'm sitting now. That is the waiting area. But when you walk into the main space, in the back. So we have the therapy offices, but this larger space is where we do the classes in our workshops. And so this particular day, Satchel it was mommy daycare
Mm. Oh, okay,
at
okay.
the office, and so we were eating pizza and playing with Paw Patrol and learning how to breathe because that's the thing that we do. And so he was spending some time with mama at the office.
Okay.
He
Yeah.
loves it here. He thinks I'm a doctor. And I'm like, no, mommy's a therapist. And he's like, but why? And so I just tell him, mommy helps people to feel safe and happy. And
Yeah.
so, but he'll just say, you help the people, mom. I'm like, yes, I
Oh,
do.
yeah. Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
Yeah,
Recognizes this very early.
yeah.
Very important. I'm going to tell you, if your son is not with you and people know you, they are going to know who he belongs to. Okay.
Because he looks just like me.
You put the space, well, I mean, not even the picture of you when you were younger. Your son looks exactly like you.
Thank you. That's my little.
Yeah.
I had a couple of weeks with all of the things going on in the office, and we say that stress is stress, right? So good stress, bad stress, your body is experiencing stress, just like sugar is sugar. Good,
That,
whatever, right? Your body is experiencing. And we were on our way to the beach, and I just kept making the wrong turns, and I was just like fussing and cussing in the car, and he was like, mommy, you are not paying attention. He was like, just breathe in and breathe out, you know what to do. And I was
oh
like,
my goodness.
I said, you know what? I sure do. So I love that he's really
Oh,
that he's
that is
taking
something.
in the things that that we say to him, the things that we do with him. But when it comes to the breath, right? Because we know that's the greatest power healing tool that we have. Like we're always like, breathe, Satchel, just breathe in. Okay, now talk to us. So it was so cute to hear him say that.
Well, as long as he's with you, you'll be fine.
Yeah. Right. He'll remind me to keep breathing. So yeah, he definitely, like I said, it's definitely a kid friendly space.
Mhm.
When my clients can't bring when they don't have a sitter,
Mhm.
we may have to adjust the sessions, but they can be in here and they can lay out. We have toys and they can,
Mhm.
learn some breathing techniques as well. I think it's important that these are things that we're passing down to our children and to the community.
Isn't it something? Isn't it something? Now, did you acquire some of these ideas from others, or this is all uniquely yours, or putting everything together that you've learned, and here you have a healing space?
Well, Definitely, I think, they always say, stealing like an artist. So I know that I've been influenced by, quite a few people, but definitely my journey here has been interesting. My clients, especially the young women, are always asking me like, how did you know? How did you know that you wanted to be a therapist? Did you always know what you wanted to do? And I'm like, no, I was young and crazy. I was wasting my mama's money. I was doing all kind of stuff. So I was, I have an event planning certificate, so I plan, my events. I've always loved to throw dinner parties. I think I got my first apartment when I was 17, and I would invite my friends over and just try different things out. I went to EMT school. I was a tutor. So I've done, quite a few things. And, at one point, I knew that I wanted to own a venue. And I think I had shared with you that when Will and I, got married, we didn't have any money. We were so poor. I was a social worker. He was working part-time at the news station. And, we didn't come from those type of families where folks were saving up money to get married or just saving up money that, we didn't have that luxury. And I had hired this guy who he was actually working at the agency where I was. My first job was at the AIDS Task Force of Greater Cleveland. At that time, that's what the agency was. Now it's called AIDS Health Foundation. And I'd hire him to do my interior. To what do you mean? What do you say? To plan the wedding. And so he was going to
Okay.
do all of like the decorating and just all of that. And so we went around to all of these different community centers, and we were doing all of the things. And, when I was younger, my mom, anytime that we had to move into a new house, we would negotiate the deposit. My mom would go in and she would paint, and we would paint, and we would do all of these different things. So I was always kind of good with color and design and different things like that because my mom was based on her background. And so I would go into these community centers, and I just was like, I know that we can do better. Like, I shouldn't be paying this much for this. So the guy said to me, you have a champagne taste on a beer budget. And I was like, I do. I was like, I actually do. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to plan my own wedding. I was like, I'm just going to
Mhm.
plan it, whatever. And so at that time, I was like, okay, I'm going to get a venue. And folks that want to have these small events that don't have a lot of money, they can still have something beautiful and extravagant. Because our wedding, we had like 50 people. And so I was in that space for a while. I was still, going to school, and when I landed in social work, I wasn't really thinking about anything else. I wasn't jumping around from here to there, and so I was on Larchmere for a year. I was down the street for a little bit, and then when I was at 3689, I knew immediately that I was going to need more space. So
Mhm.
you know how you can be where you are, but you know your mind
Okay.
is saying
Yeah.
like this,
Mhm.
there's something more. So I was comfortable there, but I was always, just kind of teetering. And when Craig when I told him, so I came off maternity leave, and I was trying to get the unit next to me, but somebody had already acquired it. And I was like, well, just keep me in mind. I know the Lee Road action plan is happening, whatever. But just at some point, I would like to expand. And
Mhm.
so he showed me a couple other spaces. And when he brought me to 3601, I was like, oh my God, this is it. And so I took a picture and I sent it to my mom. She's, she knows everything. She's my best friend and my cheerleader. She was like, this is it. So I drew a building that looks very similar to this in like 2011. And like the
Mm.
floor plan and just all of these different things. And so um when I walked in, it was like an empty space because it used to be the cleaners, and folks still come in sometimes like, "Hey, is this the cleaner?" No, this is not the cleaners anymore. But so I walked in, and I just immediately I was like, I already know how I want. Like I knew how I wanted to be set up. I knew what I wanted to do, and when I got into this space, it just all came together. So the healing events that we do, the healing workshops, hosting things for my colleagues, all the things that we've been able to do within the year, and the things that we have planned, everything that I have done, working with, you know the Shaker Heights Police Department, and how when I went to EMT school and how I did my clinicals with the fire department and the police department. Like all the things that I've done are coming together in this space. Going to school for education briefly, and now I'm instructing and doing different things like that. So when I've shared part of my story when I was down the street, and then now that I'm here and sharing that story with young women, it's like you feel like you're not on the right path, but
Mhm.
you're in that area, right? It's almost like when like miners are like looking for gold or whatever, and they
Mhm.
have that device, and it's like, I know
Yeah,
it's
I know
here
it's here.
somewhere,
I
I'm
know it's here.
finding it. And then eventually they get to it. I just imagine that, in life, that is what's happening. When you feel your way through it, it's like, you're eventually going to where you need to go. And then all of your
When it's there.
experiences just
Yeah,
come together. So it's important to be present in the journey, right? And just know that it means something. So
it is. Isn't that something? And you knew it when you saw it.
yeah, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it was so cool. I was like,
Oh,
wow.
that's good. I know we have another picture of you and the mayor. What is this event?
Oh, what was that? That was at Shabam. That's the Shaker Heights Business Association mixer. And I can't see it from here. That was either in 2023 or
What the
22.
hell?
Yeah, and so I won Get Healthy here.
Yeah.
So we have the mixer at the dealership
Mm-hmm.
on
Hmm.
Lee Road,
Yeah.
and so that was pretty cool. That was my first any type of recognition and shaker. So I
Oh,
was like, whoa,
okay. Good to keep that in mind. And to
yeah,
do
that was cool.
okay, good, good, good. And we have one more honor that you have received, the National Coalition for Black Women.
Oh,
Tell us about this.
yeah.
People are recognizing your work.
Yeah, man. That was last year, so that was in 2024, and I was awarded the She Leads Award through the National Coalition for 100 Black Women, and so that was that was pretty cool. And a few of my mentors actually are members of that organization. So it was nice to be there, with them and to receive the award. And even, with the other honorees and just to learn about all of the things that we're doing in the community. But that was a really special moment. Yeah.
That's something. People are recognizing your work.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Do you want to name any of your mentors? I know you don't want to leave anybody out.
No.
Mother.
so,
No,
so
okay. You know
Elizabeth,
they're out there. You'll send this to everybody. So
no, well, yeah, I'll send it to him. Yeah, because I've done that before, and when you are in the moment and emotional,
yeah, you go.
you forget, folks.
And
So
we'll get off the air, and you're like, oh, can I
yeah,
go?
and I started to I started to name, and I said, you know what, I will send this to them, because I always do. So they are definitely gonna be excited to see me, being filmed today. This is amazing.
Oh yes, yes.
Hmm.
You talked about your event planning and a little bit about your um interest in decorating and we see, your space. So,
Hmm.
do you want to say anything else just about your interest in decorating? And I know you're across the street also from Launch Media Arts. We
Lunch
and
Arts Medias. Uh-huh.
Arts Media, right, right, right.
Hmm.
So we've been around the people in the neighborhood. But you
Hmm.
say anything more about that? Your is it a hobby? Is it something you do?
Well, yes, it definitely is a hobby. And I have one of my sorors and one of my friends. She's doing some enhancement, so it's pretty cool to see her play off of what I just naturally like to do. So I do really enjoy decorating. It is a way that I kind of work out my healing.
Mm,
In therapy, we talk about different pillars of wellness, and one of the pillars that I really rely on is the environmental pillar
mm,
of wellness.
mhm,
When I was young, I was taught that in every corner you should see something beautiful. So
mm,
whatever that means to you, and
mhm,
so when I think about wanting to come in, especially as a clinician. So, I want the space to feel good for clients, but it's really more so important for me to feel good, because if
Mm.
I don't feel good, then I can't be present, for the folks that I'm working with. So, a lot of the things that are here, they definitely represent beauty and calm to me, but then also just like the subtle, just different cultural references, like the burlap and the mud cloth, and just some of the different greenery that we use. It kind of helps. I think that it helps for clients to see that they are thought and recognized when they come into the space. I'm definitely greatly passionate about working with the African American community, but we work with everybody. And so when I think about what that means, that kind of informs the different things that we put into the space, from the books to the color to the types of tea, that we have, just a lot of different things. So I think it's important um, for me to feel good first, and then for other folks to feel good, but also to see themselves in a way when they come into the space.
That's important. I don't think people really think about that, about how you have to feel good in your space,
Mm-hmm.
as a person who's going to also welcome people into your
Mm-hmm.
space. Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you look around and you go, hmm, well,
Mm-hmm.
and certainly everybody isn't necessarily conscious of that,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily present that. Well, this has been wonderful. This has been
Yes.
absolutely wonderful. I could talk to you all day long.
Yes. Every time I talk to you is always just a wonderful conversation. I feel like we kind of go to the same spaces, but we just, find different corners to,
Yes, yes,
to
yes,
explore.
yeah. And
Mhm.
just your interaction with some people I did not, when I saw that you had been India, Dr. Nair did not necessarily come to mind, but when you were talking about Cleveland State and the study abroad in India, I was like, oh, okay,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
We're still doing that kind
Yeah. I mean, it was such a beautiful time. And it was hard not to, feel in control and not to have freedom. We stayed at a hostel and we were locked in at night, and it was for our safety.
of.
But I was like, oh my goodness, why are we here? And he would, and Dr. Nair, we were living not too close from his home. And so he would go home and then he would come back, and we would all just have questions for him, like, what is going on? And the electricity, it was
Oh,
intermittent,
on
right? And so we would be working on projects, and then the electricity would go out, and it would be all of these things that were happening. But I think that it was interesting to me. There was two grad students who were just essentially like our tour guides, and they were responsible for us. And it was at one point where, even though they weren't speaking English, it was just like I could understand everything that they were saying, like from their body language to their breathing to all of these different things. And when I reflect back on it, I think about how I am interacting with my clients and how I'm assessing them. I'm not just listening to the words that they say. I'm looking at all of those things. And I think that that was the first time that I had that experience where I had to slow myself down and just really just look at the full picture and just have that. It's just a different way to communicate. It's a different type of language that is happening. And I was just like, it was just an experience like no other. It was so many different things, but when I had the most clarity is when I just had to slow down and be quiet. That it was just like, okay, I have to be mindful. I have to just be aware, right? I have to be aware of things. I have to really, really lean into that. So the mindfulness meditation is like being aware of myself and being present with myself. And then really understanding Zen meditations where you just have to sit. And I would be like, I'm so fidgety. And I would be like, I can't see what is going on. And Dr. Nair would be like, it's okay, Michelle, it's okay. And I would be like, no. So it's, that, what do you call it? Like, it was just exposure therapy for sure. Like, just do
Yes, you'll be fine.
that's really what it was. But oh my goodness.
Oh, goodness.
I'm just so grateful I was able to go. I
Oh,
really
that's wonderful. That's
am.
wonderful. So,
Mhm.
Michelle, thank you. Thank you so much for spending this time with us today. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. So, as we said, this was pre-recorded, but we will have an opportunity for people to, post in the chat when we show this live on Sunday, August
Okay.
10th, which is where we are today, folks, when I'm, addressing our audience. And I can't thank you enough. We've learned a lot from you in this conversation. We know where you are on Lee Road and in your neighborhood on Ludgate. What an
Mhm.
honor to have you as our guest on Witness to History. And my ad, of course, at the end of our program always is that I'm looking for guests for Witness to History. Everybody who's been on Witness to History should know my phone number by heart by now. But, 216 509 4018, or we have our monthly meetings in at the Stephanie Tubbs Jones building, and I'm always looking for new guests on Witness to History, and we'll just keep on going, right, John? Yes, we're here. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening, and everyone have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Michelle. Take
Thank you.